Okay, and we are live.
I've lost you.
All
We
right.
still have you.
All right, we are ready to begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. My name is Zainab Chaudhry. I'm the Director for CARE's office in Maryland. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's webinar. It's great to have you here with us. We're going to be talking about a very important topic that might not have been very high on your list of priorities lately, but we're hoping that with the information that you learned during today's webinar, that it'll encourage you to pay more attention to the primary election on June 2nd, and to motivate people in your community to also mobilize and to raise awareness about the importance of being engaged on June 2nd in this particular election. So as I mentioned, I'm the director of the CARE office in Maryland. CARE is the nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization. And we are so proud to partner with several organizations and community partners to bring this webinar to you today. Obviously, you know, the coronavirus pandemic has led to many sweeping changes in our lives, including in the workforce, in our schools. But fortunately, it has not canceled the primary election. And however, many of you know that Maryland's primary election was originally scheduled for April 28th, and that was moved to June 2nd. And so we want to make sure that you have the information that you need to be able to rock the vote and, you know, make sure that your vote is counted. And just you know, make sure that you have all of the information that you need in one place in one concise location. So in addition to obviously the presidential election, the June 2nd primary election includes nominations for the state's 8 U.S. House seats. Baltimore voters will also be selecting their choice for candidate for mayor, city council president, and council seats and city comptroller. So this is not just about one election. These are multiple races that your voice is going to be impactful for. So we're proud to partner with the Montgomery County Board of Elections, with the Montgomery County Muslim Council, Islamic Center of Maryland, Islamic Society of Germantown, Noor Center, the Imam Center, Muslim Community Center, the Islamic Society of the Washington area, and the Islamic Society of Baltimore to hold this webinar. And our panelists and our speakers will be kind of breaking down, you know, a lot of the context and the information that you need to know about the election, bringing in their community's unique perspectives and sharing information that will be relevant for you and your communities, inshallah. So our goal with this webinar is to promote voter turnout. We want to make sure that your vote counts again. And we want to provide accurate, simple, and concise information in one place to help you be able to make an informed decision and navigate this election as stress-free as possible. You have plenty of other things to worry about. You do not need to worry about knowing what the specifics are in order for you to make your vote count. So we're hoping that with the information that you'll receive here today, that'll help you make that process a lot more easier. So the information that's going to be shared in today's webinar is applicable statewide. And so we just want to put that out there because there might be people watching in Baltimore County and Prince George's County, Howard County, Harford County. We want you to know that this is a statewide election, so this information is going to be applicable to you. And we hope that you find it beneficial and that you will spread this with your networks and encourage others to also be able to benefit from this information. So our guest panelists that we have here today, thank you all so much for joining us. We have Dr. Gilberto Zelaya from the Montgomery County Board of Elections. We have Sister Adila Sharif, who is the ICM Board of Trustee member. We have Brother Jamil Johnson, who is the president of the Prince George's County Muslim Council. Dr. Samir Jaffrey, who's the president of the Muslim Community Center. We have Brother Hisham Garthi, who's Garthi, did I say that right? Garthi, who's with the Montgomery County Muslim Council. And we have Brother Riyad Ali, who's with the Islamic Society of the Washington area. So we've got a lot of information that we want to pack into like a very brief amount of time. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. And we will have our first panelist, Dr. Z, who's joining us from the Montgomery County Board of Elections to jump right in.
Okay. So let me go to the slide. Okay. Can you see the slide?
We cannot yet, but what I can do is play it on my end. Would you like for me to start the slideshow?
Yes, please.
Okay. So are you able to see that on your ends now? The slideshow?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Great. And let me see if we can figure out how to expand. There we go. But Dr. Z, are you able to see it? You want to take it from here? Okay,
Yes,
great.
thank you. So thank you once again. I apologize for the my technical difficulties in getting used to Zoom. So, but nonetheless, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to enlighten and empower the community at large. Montgomery County is a very diverse county, and so is Maryland. So in recognizing the sanctity of voting, we want to make sure that all communities have access to the same information. So I apologize for the technical difficulties, but I do thank everyone for being online and to support this much needed endeavor. So we'll start with the slide. So the first thing, as they noted, Governor Hogan did make a proclamation in April, moving the presidential primary election from April 28th through to Tuesday, June 2nd. Because of COVID-19, the health and well-being of our voters in Montgomery County and Maryland residents is paramount. So moving the date from the 28th of April to the 2nd of June was under proclamation by Governor Hogan. Okay, next slide. So the first thing you need to do to prepare to be an active voter is you must be registered to vote. And we're going to talk about the different nuances and the requirements to do so. In Maryland, to be a registered voter, you must be a U.S. citizen. You must be at least 16 years of age. And what's interesting in Maryland, if you're 17 years of age today and you turn 18 by November 3rd, which is the Maryland general election date, you could vote as a 17-year-old in the current election. So once again, if you're 17 as of today, but turn 18 by November 3rd, which is the general presidential election, you could vote as a 17-year-old. It's very easy to do. Montgomery County leverages a lot of opportunities and technology. We have created SMS texting using our cell phones. And what you could do, and this is also for the state of Maryland, not just Montgomery County, you could text the word vote to 77788, vote to 77788, and it will give you the Maryland State Board of Elections link for you to register to vote. Now, in order to do that, you must have a Maryland driver's license, an ID, or a permit. If you don't, you could definitely go to our website, which is 777vote.org, and you could download the voter registration application for Maryland from our website, and you can mail that to us or to the corresponding local boards of elections, since we're talking to all Maryland voters. So you could send that to your corresponding local board of elections. They will register you. You will get a notification in the mail, and then automatically you will get your vote by mail ballot in the mail as soon as possible. The voter registration deadline is the 27th of May. Next slide. So as we noted, the deadline is the 27th of May. You could text vote to 77788. That's not just for Montgomery County. That will provide the Maryland State Board of Elections voter registration link. Slide. In addition, what's unique to Maryland and other states in our nation, we have closed primaries. What that means is you must be either a registered Democrat or Republican to vote in their primary presidential elections. If you're unaffiliated or independent, you will be able to vote for school board. But if you're within one of the two parties, Democrat or Republican, you could vote the party specific contest within your ballot. Montgomery County has 20 ballot styles, and we'll talk about that briefly. But depending where you live in the state of Maryland, there's X amount of ballot styles for both the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and also non-affiliated independent voters. And you could text the word check, C-H-E-C-K, to 77788. You can review your current voter registration record, and you can make the changes as necessary. Keep in mind, ballots will be mailed this week, Thursday specifically. to the mailing address or the residential address on your voter registration record. So if you've moved since the 2018 elections, I highly recommend that you update your voter registration record. If there is a change, the system will prompt the local boards of elections to send you a second issue ballot. If you get a second issue ballot, please return the second ballot, the second issue. Do not return the first, because voting twice is it's a no-no, and we will look into it and we will call the voter why we receive two corresponding vote by mail ballots. Sometimes there's a mistake, could be twins, juniors, seniors, or even with our elderly voters, a lot of times could be an issue they've forgotten. They mailed the first ballot and then kind of remember that they need to vote, and they'll request a second issue ballot. But we will do our due diligence to look into why we receive two ballots. If there's any malicious intent, we'll forward that individual's name to the state's attorney. So review your ballot, make sure everything is current. Text the word check to 77788. Slide. So like I mentioned, on Thursday, ballots will be mailed. There are some counties where voters are receiving their ballots, but specifically for Montgomery County, Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning is when they will start mailing them. Everyone should look out for their corresponding ballot around the first, early next week. So between Monday and Wednesday, you should be getting your corresponding ballot in the mail. Make sure that you read all the materials in that ballot packet. Once again, Maryland has closed primaries, so you must be registered in the two recognized party. As you look at the slides, in Montgomery County, we have 20 ballot styles, 8 Republican, 8 Democrat, and 4 non-affiliated. What's very important also to note, and you could go to the next slide, the ballot you will receive will have a date of April 28th. Remember, before all the issues with COVID-19, that was the presidential primary election date for the state of Maryland, April 28th. The issue of reprinting millions of ballots and the cost involved to do that, this is my personal opinion. What's important are the contests that each voter will vote on, whether it's President of the United States, whether it's school board, representatives for the National Convention or caucus. The date, the April 28th was the former date, yes, but because of Governor Hogan's proclamation, the new date is June 2nd, and to spend the money to print new ballots, personally, I think it should go to purchasing PPE for our medical staff, especially what's going on with COVID-19. Don't focus on the April 28th date. Those ballots are legitimate, and they're legit, and we will scan and we will count those ballots when we receive at the local boards of election office. Next slide. And as I said, the focus should be the contests. The contests have not changed. The candidates are registered. The individuals will appear on the ballots. Having the April 28th should not be the focus. It's the contest. And that's the reason why we're protecting your right to vote. Okay, so keep in mind the April 28th date will appear on your ballot. Focus on the contest, and we will move forward and we will count your vote. Next slide. So in order to update your party affiliation or your name or your mailing residential address, really simple summary, you could text the word vote to 77788. You could also text the word check to 77788 to update and to review your voter registration. If there are any changes, the local boards of elections, once your voter registration is confirmed, will mail you out a second issue ballot. You could also, for Montgomery County voters, could email the Board of Elections at absentee@montgomerycountymd.gov, or you could contact us at 240-777-8550. So this is a sample of what the ballot pack or the outside envelope will look like. You will see the Montgomery County Board of Elections or your corresponding local boards, whether it's Prince George's County, Howard County, Baltimore, Baltimore City, etc. What's important to note, it will have the official election mail seal. And that's very important. And also your name will appear. If you could show the next slide, I was able to get an image of the Baltimore County Congressional District 7 ballots. It's just kind of an image to see what it looks like. Obviously, you will not get this corresponding vote by mail packet. It will have your corresponding local board of elections, whether it's Montgomery County, Prince George's, et cetera, but it will be titled for the presidential vote by mail election. Next slide. So once you open the packet, make sure you read the material. In there will be a voter assistant form, and that's it's an important piece of paper, especially with our extended family members. If you provide assistance to a voter needing to fill out the ballot, in Montgomery County specifically, our ballots under Section 203 of the 1975 Voter Rights Act is bilingual in English and Spanish. Prince George's County also has a bilingual ballot. Other counties will just have English. Having said that, not every naturalized citizen came from England or Australia, and they come from a kaleidoscope of countries where English is not the language that they speak. Having said that, if you have an elderly family member or an individual who may not feel comfortable with in Montgomery County with the bilingual ballot, or let's say in Howard County with the English ballot, then you could identify a loved one to assist that voter. But make sure that the individual who assists the voter and the voter sign the voter assistance form that's in the ballot packet, and you make sure that that comes back to your local board of elections. But please use a blue or black ballpoint pen. I know that we're all sharing the dining room table with our children to do their homework, etc. Do not use a marker. Do not use a crayon. Do not use pencil. Use a black or blue ballpoint pen. Next. And on the back of the return envelope, it's extremely important that the voter mailing back their voted ballot signs the oath of absentee voter. Without that signature, your ballot will not be counted. The local boards of elections will do their best to contact the voter to, number one, make arrangements for them to come in to sign this, because we need that signature. So please, once you vote your ballot and you stuff it in the envelope, if you provide assistance to a loved one, by all means, fill out the voter assistant form. Make sure that both the voter and the assister sign that document, and sign the back of the voter return envelope, and make sure that oath is signed. Next. And that's a sample of what it looks like. As you notice, it says oath of absentee voter. You must sign this oath. If you do not sign it, your ballot will not count. But we will contact the voter if we note that there's no signature, and we will try our best to get the individual to come into the office to sign. But please remember, sign that voter oath, the backside of the return envelope. Slide. So mail your ballot. So the State Board of Elections and the local Board of Elections are sharing the costs to have to pay postage on your return envelope. So there's no need for you to find 55, 65-cent stamp. All you need to do is vote your ballot and place it in the United States Post Office or into a collection bin. They are located throughout the neighborhoods and throughout Maryland. If you need to look for a post office and you're not familiar with your area, you could text the word box, B-O-X, to 77788, and it will take you to the United States Post Office. It'll give you a link. You click that link, and all you need to do is put your zip code or your address, and it will show you all of the closest post office to that particular information you provide the link. It's a very easy hands-on opportunity to empower the voter. Also note, next slide. And the next one. And also note that for Montgomery County, starting on the 21st of May, we will install a series of ballot boxes, drop boxes across the county. Your county will have X amount of ballot drop boxes in addition to your corresponding location. So I would encourage you to go to your local Board of Elections. The locations will also be listed within the absentee vote by mail ballot packet. It should list the locations corresponding to your local Board of Elections. But those ballot drop boxes will be installed on the 21st of May. So do not wait until May if you receive your ballot next week. If you get your ballot on Tuesday, vote it on Wednesday, text the word box, locate your closest post office, and mail it back. And the reason I say that is the staff, volunteers, and the election judges, we need to prep those ballots for canvass. And we're following public health guidelines by the State Board of Elections, by the state of Maryland, and the local boards of elections and CDC. And we're going to hold those ballots for 24 hours before we start sorting and touching them. Obviously, our staff and volunteers will have gloves and masks, et cetera. We will have PPE. But for Montgomery County, those are the 7 locations listed at our main office in Gaithersburg, Fraser Community Center in Burtonsville, Activity Center in Gaithersburg, the Silver Spring Civic Building, the Wheaton Library, the Germantown Community Center, and City of Rockville. But your corresponding locations will have that information on their corresponding websites. Next. So as I noted, on the back side of the return envelope is the voter oath, which you should definitely sign. But on the front side, you would note that postage is paid. The Maryland State Board of Elections and your local Board of Elections are paying first class to get the ballot back to the Board of Elections as soon as possible. So don't worry about that stamp. Vote your ballot, seal your envelope, sign the oath, and mail it back. Next. So Montgomery County will have 4 vote centers. Keep in mind, we will not implement early voting. This is not just Montgomery County, this is the entire state of Maryland because of COVID-19. Also, Montgomery County has about 240 election day precincts. We will not have precincts. The goal is that every single registered voter will vote by mail. The state will mail your corresponding ballot. Once you get your ballot, you vote it back. But for those individuals unable to vote their ballot, once again, for those individuals unable to vote their ballot, or maybe an individual who has not registered to vote and or missed the May 27th deadline, keep in mind, they moved the voter registration deadline closer to Election Day, which is June 2nd. Historically, the voter registration deadline is 3 weeks before the corresponding election day. The reason they moved the voter registration is to cast a wider net to get more of the community to register before June 2nd. So if you didn't register and it's the 28th, 29th of May and you're new into Maryland and you want to register to vote to leverage same day voter registration, then you could go to one of the 4 vote centers in Montgomery County. But also in the ballot packet will be the locations of your corresponding vote centers. But by all means, the reason why we mailed the ballot is to avoid the next pictures. Next slide. And the next image I'm going to show you in the next slide are what occurred in Wisconsin. I'm not going to get into the details of what occurred there. The reason I'm showing these images is the line. The line. Montgomery County has 670,000 registered voters. If all those voters decide to vote at the 4 vote centers, you could have up to 200,000 individuals per vote center. That's not realistic, okay? That is not realistic. So please, if you can vote your ballot, you should vote your ballot. If you can't, for whatever medical reasons, vision, by all means, you have the vote centers. But it's gonna be very difficult to serve thousands of voters in 4 vote centers in Montgomery County, or for those smaller counties, they may just have 1 vote center. The State Board of Elections and the Governor Hogan mandated that every county will have no less than 1, but no more than 4. So we have our 4 vote centers. And the image on the left is a kind of a setup that you may see at a vote center. If you notice, the volunteers, staff, the election judges or the poll workers are wearing PPE. We're going to control the traffic inside that location. It's not going to be like a normal election day precinct setup. We're going to control traffic. We're going to have the social distancing. Our staff and volunteers will be wearing PPE. What does that mean? If one voter completes the cycle and leaves the vote center, we'll allow 1 to come in. What does that mean? If you have 300 to 400 to 500 people in line and you're putting social distancing measures and you have a voter every 6 to 10 feet, that line would be extremely long. So please, we're gonna mail your ballot. Think about the volunteers, think about the staff, think about your fellow voters. You're gonna get the ballot, please mail it. But if you are unable to vote your ballot, then you have the 4 vote centers in Montgomery County or the corresponding numbers of vote centers in your corresponding location. But please, it's COVID-19, social distancing. We want you to be safe, but it's our job to protect your constitutional right to cast your ballot and to vote. Next slide. And if you have any questions for those individuals in Montgomery County, you could contact us at 240-777-8500. You could go on our website. We have excellent FAQs, and we have them in different languages on 777vote.org that covers everything we just talked about. And also, you could email us at elections@montgomerycountymd.gov. But at the end of the day, we're here to serve, and we want to make sure that you're safe and that you flex your constitutional right to vote.
Thank you so much for that informative presentation, Dr. Z. I know that I myself learned a lot of information that I previously was not aware of. And I know earlier today there was a conversation happening about the fact that the ballots that have been mailed out have the April 28th date on it. And so there were concerns about voter suppression and things like that. So I'm really glad that you were able to clarify that this is just a matter of not wanting to waste the extra money to reprint the ballots, money that could be better allocated towards purchasing PPE supplies and things like that. So that's really a relief to know.
Exactly.
And so with that, we will segue over into Q&A with our panelists. So we have Sister Adila, who's going to co-moderate this piece of the conversation, and I will let her take it from here. Sister Adila, are you with us?
Can you not unmute it?
Yep.
I guess technical.
We can hear you now.
We can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. So I'm Adila. I'm with Islamic Center of Maryland. Let me start off with my question, and I'll go to the other panelists after that. So Dr. Z, you're known as Dr. Z in Moco, so I'm just going to stick with that. Quick question regarding some of the things that most of the mosques are doing right now. So every single mosque right now has some form of service where we're giving away food to hundreds of people. Is there somehow we can help you get this information to those people as we're serving the food by giving out handouts or some information to them?
Yes, we do. So we do have, similar to the PowerPoint, the steps 1 through 5, we do have a pictograph leaflet that I would gladly print, and we could insert in whatever is given to the family members during COVID-19. Also, we encourage all of the organizations online and our brothers and sisters, go to our website, our Facebook page, and our Instagram page, and you could download and you could share all of our banners, all of the information, and the FAQ. So everything is on social media, and everything we discussed today is in banner formats, and there's a lot of links to FAQs. And also, actually today, we uploaded the FAQs on our website, and we have them in English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Korean, Chinese, Amharic, and French. And so I know we're gonna work together to get them in other languages, in Arabic, and we had a conversation last night. And we definitely, any opportunity to share the information, we're here to serve.
Thank you. With that, let me go to Brother Samir from MCC. So Brother Samir, do you want to tell the people how and why Muslims should be active in this election?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons that we should be active. And first of all, it's our right to vote. And one of the reasons we're here is that we have a right to help select our leadership. But even more important, I mean, a lot of people have seen that the presidential race isn't really a race anymore, that the candidates for both the major parties have been selected. But that's not really what's so critical about this. You have an opportunity to vote for not just the presidential candidates, but candidates in your local offices. And those down ballot offices are really important. In fact, when you're looking at county council members, board of education members, uh, those sorts of offices, they impact your life much more so than even a federal office, a national office. You know, what happens in your neighborhood, whether your street's going to get a sidewalk, whether they're going to put in a high density housing community around the corner from you and block up traffic, or all those, whether you're going to get a new library, all those things are decided by your local people that you elect on your county council. You know, whether you have Eid as a holiday, this is decided by your Board of Education. You need to have the right members on there. So all these things are very important for us to be concerned about. So not only should you vote on them, but you need to be educated about them. And there are a lot of sources to get education on those types of issues. For example, the League of Women Voters has a guide, and there's many other guides out there. The League of Women Voters guide is actually available. It used to be available in the libraries, but since they're closed, I know you can get it online. And they review they have a question and answer with all the candidates. You get information there, and there's other sources. But it's really important to learn about the candidates and figure out which ones you want to vote for. Don't just you know, have somebody tell you these are guys you should vote for, but really make a good decision, because it'll impact your life. And one more thing, you should also teach your children. You know, you should vote to teach your children that it's important to vote. So they vote when they grow up and they see my parents always voted, and they'll grow up in that environment. I think it will help us empower the Muslim community going forward in this country, and help us decide, you know, have an impact on decisions that are made.
Dr. Jaffrey, I want to piggyback off of a point that you made about local elections. I know that, Brother Jamil, you had mentioned yesterday that with Prince George's County Muslim Council's efforts to elect specific candidates in different elections, you were able to make certain concessions in the county. Can you talk a little bit about that and what impact that had?
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, everyone who may be listening. Yes, in Prince George's County Muslim Council, and we, like many of the other groups on the phone today, we're actually a 501c4, where most of the others are 501c3s. This allows us to actually engage more in lobbying and to be an advocate not only for policies, but for candidates. So we can act in a partisan way. When it comes to voting, though, we primarily, first and foremost, try to focus on getting people involved in the process. That's one of the main reasons that we exist, is to get the Muslim community involved in the civic and political affairs of Prince George's County. So we have been focusing on getting people registered to vote over the years, holding candidate forums, whether we were at the time engaging in supporting a particular candidate or not, but getting the Muslim community to know who the candidates are, as well as advocating on particular positions. One of the things that I do want to mention in particular, to follow up on what our brother said about the local elections. So for instance, here in Prince George's County, we have obviously the presidential race, but like the brother said, it's been pretty much decided already. Our two members of Congress are up to 2 congressional seats that cover Prince George's County are up, District 4 and District 5. But most of the others, the state legislators, the county council in Prince George's County is not up again for another 2 years. The governor, of course, is not up, and our county executive is not up. But for us, we have staggered Board of Education seats. So we have about 4 seats that are up this particular year of the 9 which are elected, and for us, 4 appointed by the county executive. Now, some of those members who are up are members who supported us and strategized with us in order to get the Eid holiday, Eid al-Fitr, the schools closed next year in 2021. So around this time next year, the Eid will be coming up and Prince George's County Public Schools will be closed. That comes directly from working not only with the CEO of the public schools, but working with the members of the board who supported of us. We have a brother, Muhammad Ali, and as we say about him, he's not the fighter, but he'll fight. He's not a boxer, but he'll fight for you. He is running for school board in District 4. So this is an opportunity to support one of our own. So we started, especially with this election, in making sure, number one, we sent out a mailing yesterday to our constituents, letting them know about the changes in the election, to register or to be registered to vote if they're not, that the election will be on June 2nd. There's a mail-in ballot. And we're going to be working with some of the imams and from our own district judge, Brother Habib Jah, on a webinar for Prince George's County constituents on making sure they know how to vote and that they get involved. And one of the things I'd like to ask Dr. Z about, that some of us may have a concern about, is how best to help those people who may, especially under these circumstances, may be shut-ins and need to, but they tend to be some of the most consistent voters, but are under a difficult restriction right now, how best we can help them.
So the best way to help those voters under any type of restrictions is, number one, reach out to see what type of assistance they need. That's the first, and kind of assess. Unfortunately, the local boards of elections don't get involved as it pertains to that individual voter. They could reach out to the Board of Elections, and we could try to see what resources it exists and how we could help them out. The goal by sending every voter their ballot is that they could mail their ballot back after voting. But I know that the different organizations on this, the panelists, provide incredible services to the community. And at the end of the day, if there's any of these odd nuances, by all means, you could always reach out to me or to your local Board of Elections, because it's almost could be a case by case. And there's also legal, ramification of providing a type of assistance. Because if you do become the conduit for the voter, let's say if you're going to deliver their ballot from where they live to the local Board of Elections, or you're going to drop off the ballot, there's some ramification because you're providing assistance. And I want to make sure that the voter who's providing that individual ballot, it actually makes it to the board. So if there's any odd nuances, by all means, contact your local Board of Elections. We're there to help, and we will leverage our legal counsel to make sure that the board themselves are not infringing upon the constitutional right for that voter. But at the same time, we will leverage whatever community resources we have out in the community, such as yourself, to ensure that that voter gets to flex their constitutional right.
Shukran.
And I just want to piggyback off of that, that comment that many of our organizations are 501c3s. So through this webinar, we're not endorsing specific candidates. This is purely just informational to convey, the basic information on, how to rock your vote, how to make sure that you are able to cast your ballot.
Okay. We just heard from PGCMC. Brother Hisham, you have a very interesting banner behind you. And Brother Samir had mentioned Board of Education. What you have coming up, and you had another great idea as well yesterday. So I'll let you elaborate on that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sister Adila. Thank you, Zainab, and Dr. Z. Thank you for the great presentation and for bringing this up to our community. I think it's extremely important, and it is more than ample time that we take advantage of all of these things that are available, all the resources that are available to us by the county and by the state, of course. Before I say anything, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, and Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I am here representing Montgomery County Muslim Council, where we do seek actually to increase our civic and political engagement, just like Brother Jamil from PG County, and like most of you guys, obviously, since we are considered community activists and involved members. The banner behind me happens to be extremely timely, as we are hosting a virtual Board of Education candidate forum on May the 17th, inshallah. I'm going to take myself off completely so that everybody can see it, and the details will be shared through everybody. And the reason being, in Montgomery County, just like Brother Samir said, and to piggyback on Brother Jamil Johnson, in Montgomery County, this happens to not be as important or as hotly contested an election cycle, but with the exception of the Board of Education. And I say that because there are a number of seats that are contested, mostly the at-large ones, but 2 districts also. Now, why is this important? Well, just like Brother Samir said, there is almost nothing that is more important to us in this county, because most of the people that have moved to Montgomery County or that have chosen to stay here as young professionals and families have done so really because of not only how great from a resource perspective this county is, but also because of the outstanding school system. That being said, unless we get involved, unless we show up to vote, unless we get to know the candidates, unless we seek and we continue on with the relationship, just like Brother Jamil said, we in Montgomery County as well had to really fight for our Eid prayer day, right? And Sister Zainab with CARE was in show, Brother Samir and his people, and Adila, just about everybody. So we worked in unison. But unless we get to establish relationships with our elected officials, and the best time to do is before they get elected, right? Unless we establish those relationships, it's always fighting for just about everything. And at times, and most times actually, it's mostly because of lacking some knowledge. As Dr. Z mentioned, unless we know some of these resources and tools available to us, I mean, I took notes, and if I were to show you, I took copious notes. Well, you can't really see them, but it's about 2 pages worth of notes, right? And I consider myself part of an organization that's fairly savvy when it comes to all things that are political in nature. And the other thing that I did want to really mention and bring about, and that is, obviously, we are in difficult times. We are in very, very specific and special times, right? Ones that have made us change the way we do just about everything. Meaning, we don't do things in person anymore, and we haven't done so for a number of time. Well, we view it as an excellent opportunity because just about every mosque, every Islamic center right now is holding virtual meetings on a nightly basis, this being the great month of Ramadan. And what this presents is an opportunity for everybody. Again, what this presents is an opportunity for everybody to stay connected, to pass the message, and to really share these things that are extremely important. And unless we show up to vote, and unless we pay attention to something else that's happening around us right now, which is the census, right? Then our voices might not be heard. But we do deserve for our voices to be heard. Dr. Z mentioned that there were over 670,000 registered voters in Montgomery County. Well, about 10 to 12% of those per the last election cycle from 2016, I believe, is one of the numbers that were available to us, were Muslim voters. But we don't get to know about these numbers that are extremely important when we show up to meet with our elected officials, when we seek to speak with candidates. We really don't know about these numbers unless our brothers and sisters, unless our congregations, unless our community members show up and exercise this right that, quite frankly, and I myself, I'm a first generation immigrant to the United States. I really don't view it as just a right. I really view it very heavily as a responsibility and a duty. It is our responsibility. It is our duty to show up and vote, so that we can have a voice that is heard, so that we can stand up for our rights, for the rights of our children and our grandchildren, inshallah. So to that end, there is a candidates forum. We have just heard today from, I think, just about everybody that was invited. They all are planning to be there on the 17th between the hours of 3 and 5 p.m. It's going to be Sunday, inshallah. And this is just because we figured it was the most important really the most important election that's happening in our county at this time. So I hope
Thank you
I've
so
answered the
much.
question. Dr. Z, again, thank you.
Thank you so much, Cam, for sharing that. And Montgomery County folks, mark your calendars for May 17th for the MCMC Candidate Forum. And that's a great idea. I love the virtual background. That's a great way to market and advertise. Dr. Z, we have a question in from one of our viewers who's watching this online. And their question is that during the in-person voting process, privacy is ensured through the use of physical boundaries. How does a mail-in process affect the privacy of our votes? Or does it affect the privacy of our votes?
It will not affect, great question. Thank you for that question. So to get in, not too much into the weeds. So when you mail in your vote by mail ballot, the process of the canvass is such where on the canvass table, you would have individuals of opposite parties, either a Democrat and a Republican, or a Democrat or unaffiliated, or one of the other recognized party, like Bread and Roses, etc. We batch, and as I mentioned, it's better that you mail your ballot as soon as possible so we could sort to prep for the canvass. We batch the ballots in batches of 25, And so let's say I'm one of the counterparts on the canvas. So I will count out 25 envelopes. I give it to my counterpart. They will count 25 envelopes. Then that second person will open the ballots themselves and will count 25. Then they pass it back to me. Then I will proceed to separate the envelope from the actual ballot and any other paper. So if there's a need to show ID, or there's a need, if say the voter got assistance from a loved one and they have the voter assistant form inside the envelope, we will separate that from the ballot. So then I should have a batch of 25 envelopes and 25 ballots. Then what happens is the other individual across from me will count the same 25 envelopes and 25 ballots, and they take away the ballots. They take away the envelopes. So the only thing on the table, on the canvas table, will be the batch of 25 ballots. The envelopes or any other documentation in that envelope will be taken away and stored, and all you will have on that ballot will be, on the table, will be the 25 ballots. So if you have a 2-page Democratic ballot, you should technically have 50 sheets, right? And then the individual will count X amount of ballots. Then I will count X amount of ballots. And that's how we separate the secrecy of that voter mailing in their ballot. And we take away the envelope and we keep the ballot on the table and we do our count. And then we check each ballot to make sure that the bubbles are filled out correctly. You know, sometimes for whatever reason, voters will make an X, or they'll circle the name of the candidate. Or let's say they made a mistake and they cross out the candidate, but they write, I want this one instead. And so what happens is we will raise our hand. We will have one of the staff members look at that ballot. If there's a need for a designation from our board or legal counsel, because we don't want to misinterpret the intention of the voter. And so what happens is, because the voter made some type of error, then that ballot needs to be duplicated. And so that ballot gets put aside, and there's a whole process of duplication. So all of this process, right now we're setting up a virtual canvas where we will have cameras in our canvas room, in our prep room, so you can see kind of this process I'm trying to explain without images. So back to the question, how the secrecy of that voter will be kept intact, that's kind of the process. We count the ballots, we count the envelopes, we separate the envelopes from the ballots, we remove the envelopes from the table, and all we will have are the ballots, and we will count those, and we will make sure that the equipment will be able to scan. It may see a ballot that has the individual use crayons, so we have to duplicate that, or individuals may mark it up incorrectly. But there's a whole process. So without getting into the weeds, that's how we try to keep the sanctity of the voters' intention and the secrecy.
Just to piggyback off of that, are you concerned about tampering with ballots at all with this process, with the mail-in ballots?
No. So we all take an oath at the Board of Elections office. I take my profession seriously. I respect the Constitution and everybody's constitutional right to vote, and so do the staff and the election judge and poll workers. As it pertains to we have the opportunity of voters to mail in their ballots. Some voters may not like the post office. Then on May 21st, we will have the ballot drop boxes, and we will pick those ballots every day. And if individuals who don't like that on June 2nd, at the drop boxes, they could still drop off those ballots. So from the 21st of May through the 2nd of June, we will have in Montgomery County 7 locations where the voter could actually deposit their ballot. For those individuals who don't mind using the United States Post Office, you have thousands and thousands of locations where you could deposit your ballot. And that's the reason why you should vote your ballot and return it, because within the week, if you text the word check to 77788, you can see the status of your actual ballot. So once you return your ballot in a couple of days, once we scan it in as received, your voter record will update as having submitted your ballot. And that's kind of a way to prove that we received it, and we will incorporate it into the canvas.
Does that also tell voters what their vote was recorded as? Or does it just tell them that they
Record the
voted?
vote. No, so that's at a separate level with the scanners and the equipment. And what happens once we scan and we count those ballots, the results will be posted on June 2nd. So we're going to stagger all the scanning because depending on the voter registration turnout, if we have a 50% turnout, you're looking at over 350,000 ballot envelopes, and we have to scan all that. And that's the reason why we're encouraging our voters to return the ballots as soon as possible so we could prep for the canvass, as opposed to trying to kind of stage a last minute canvass with 300,000 ballots received in the office the day after June 2nd.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to reach out to Brother Riot with the COVID scenario happening and Ramadan and all of us distracted right now with all of that stuff. How do you plan to get the community engaged and educated on this new election process, dates, what to do, so on and so forth?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, first of all, and thank you for the great information. And you hit the nail on the head, especially with this COVID in the past 6 weeks. It's been all consuming.
Yep.
So people have, attention has been 100% on that. And normally we have our voter registration drives, we bring in candidates from both parties, and the awareness is there. But recently, as all of us have during the first 2 weeks of Ramadan, we've had hundreds of cars circulating through, and we try and bring awareness. Oh, did you know the elections have been moved? Did you know we don't have to do any additional steps in order to receive that paper ballot? And I think that's important, is really increasing awareness. You know, we can't afford, as the last 4 years have shown, we can't afford to be indifferent or ignorant. So this is our chance now. And as Brother had mentioned, even from the Board of Education to the judge positions lower on down, those are really the critical positions. And what I try and tell people, you can go onto the website and you see the names of all the people running and research those people. Really see what you're looking for. Don't just pick names randomly. Don't let, when that ballot's in front of you, be the first time you've seen those names. So we're trying to get the word out that the election has moved to June 2nd, that the strong preference is for the mail-in ballots. And, you know, we really don't want people showing up there like they did in Wisconsin, lining up around the blocks, because that'll defeat the whole point of this quarantine we've been trying to be steadfast on. So I think that's the thing we all need to do as leaders, is get that word out and keep on hammering it home. I know this weekend we'll do that in our weekly e-blast. We'll make sure we put a link to this information. So that's really the thing here, is to raise awareness and be consistent and relentless getting that message out. We still have time before June 2nd, so we can do that. And inshallah, we can all get increased turnout from our communities.
Thank you.
And to that end, may I ask a question, Adila, please?
Sure.
Really quickly, if Dr. Zine, I know we talked about it yesterday, we asked the question, but I just received it via message, and it's showing up on there as well. Some of the people listening, some of the members of the community that are listening, are wondering what, in terms of collateral material, can they have? Is this presentation that you made available? And also, is there something that we can hand deliver or send, include in our emails and newsletters from the different centers to our congregations?
So what I'll do is,
such as the pictograph, for example, that you mentioned, the pictograph documenter.
So what I'll do is I will share the pictograph and we will post that online. As I mentioned, all the FRQs are online. So I encourage your corresponding webmaster for your organization to link all that information to your website. And then if you're having a food drive or an event and you would like for the Board of Elections to print out some of those pictographs, I have no problem doing that as well. With the age of electronics, I think linking to the FAQs and the pictograph and our website, the voter registration link, the voter lookup link, and I will share that in the email with all the parties. And if you could put that in a predominant location, including census information on your respective organization's website, that would facilitate. And then we will work on getting kind of the paper version and to get that to you as well, to disseminate to the community.
There's two more questions, Dr. Z, that are coming in. One is, why is there no early voting this year? And
COVID-19.
COVID-19. And the second question somebody wanted to find out was that with the polling places, will voters be allowed to register on site? And you might have
Yes.
covered this in your presentation.
Yes. So one of the reasons, quickly, we're not implementing early voting is the health of Maryland voters and residents are paramount. Keep in mind, every day we're learning something new about COVID-19 and how it's affecting children. There's some things about children and the different symptoms they have. The issues with heart failure and other symptoms. And so as days were passing and we were getting updates from CDC and the experts and from Governor Hogan, it was deemed that it was too risky to implement early voting or election day level precinct voting. We're talking about 670,000 people. And on average, a precinct has about 2,500 to 3,000 voters. To social distance that amount of people, that number of people is extremely difficult. Keep in mind, election day is not your ordinary day going to Target to buy milk or to go to Walmart to get gas. And I've had some voters say, well, if I wear a mask, is that okay? Why would you risk your health and those of your loved ones you're living with? I went with, yesterday shopping for groceries, and I take turns with my wife, and we're going out once every 2 weeks. And I'm like, in my mind, the countdown of 14 days for symptoms. And I have the gloves and my mask, and I keep my social distance. If I see someone in the aisle, I'm not going to go. I do my due diligence. So it's very hard to implement that number of individuals appropriately we need to mitigate the exposure to COVID. And the second question was, I'm trying to remember, I got on my soapbox.
The second question was just about the polling places being able to register voters.
Oh, yes, we did
site.
touch upon that. Yes, so we will have same-day voter registration for those individuals that did not make the voter registration deadline of May 27th. And once again, the reason why the State Board of Elections moved that day closer to election day of June 2nd was to cast a wider net to get those individuals. And once again, if you register to vote, even though the ballots will be mailed tomorrow, the minute your registration is confirmed at the local level, we will automatically mail you your corresponding vote by mail ballot. So even though you're not in the first official stream of ballots being mailed out, if you register next week, in a couple of days, a day or so, we'll confirm your registration, and you will be mailed your vote by mail ballot.
Perfect.
Question?
Sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to know, how late can you register? I know the registration is open until May 27th. How late can you register and still receive a mail ballot?
So you have to get at least postmarked by May 27th. So when we get into the office, if you register to vote on the kind of the old way on paper, if you do it online at 11:59 p.m. And if for some reason, if it's too close to the June 2nd, there's also the web delivery option. And so the State Board of Elections will email you a password and a login, and you could download your ballot from the state server. You will print the ballot, you would vote your ballot, you will need to find an envelope, you will need to find a corresponding postage, and you would mail that back to the Board of Elections or drop in one of the ballot bins. But I highly recommend, if you're of age, you're a US citizen, and you live in Maryland, this is not tax season, don't procrastinate. Register to vote ASAP so we could send your ballot, but for whatever reason you passed the deadline, you're on the deadline, we do have the web delivery mechanism to send your ballot as soon as possible. But of course, we have to duplicate that at the office, and there's a process in place to do that, because we cannot scan the 8x11 standard sheet of paper that you will print in your home printer. We have to use the official ballot, and that's the reason why we encourage voters to vote the official ballot and not necessarily the home printer 8x11. But at the end of the day, we're here to serve, and our interest is for you to vote.
And may I just offer my own testimony here? I have texted the number and I texted check and I received the reply within seconds. Clicked on it and I was able to change my address because I had actually myself, I had just moved and I had forgotten to change my address. And it was all done in under 5 minutes.
Okay, good.
And it was extremely easy.
So we got a live test right now while we were doing the webinar. That's fantastic.
Shame on you, you didn't update your registration. But it's okay, and that's the reason we're here to serve. So obviously, keep in mind that your former address, the post office cannot forward any mail from the Board of Elections to your new address. So what's going to happen is that's going to come back to the Board of Elections. But now in a day or so, we're going to confirm your new mailing address, your new voter registration information, and you will get that second issue ballot. But yes, so definitely leverage the opportunities, and we thank you for updating your record.
And with that, I think we are right on the clock at 6 o'clock. So thank you so much, Dr. For making yourself available. I know you're doing a lot of these webinars over the last few days and the rest of this week, for making yourself available to provide this very helpful, useful information to our viewers and to our communities. And hopefully it will be beneficial and it'll encourage our communities to register to vote if they're eligible to vote. And if they've already registered to vote, then to make sure that when they receive that ballot in the mail, that they complete it as soon as possible, they put it in the mail, they send it back to the Board of Elections to make sure that it is counted. And thank you so much to all of our panelists for making yourselves available as well. And just to give another plug to Montgomery County Muslim Council, May 17th, Board of Education Candidate Forum. Make sure that you guys register and you show up. A lot of really good information going down in Montgomery County. We're so proud of the work that local organizations are doing to mobilize our communities and make sure that we are politically and civically engaged. You know, there's about 250 to 300,000 Muslims around the state. And as Brother Samir was mentioning earlier, Brother Riyadh, you mentioned as well, Brother Jamil, the local elections stand to make such a critical impact. And so much of the change that happens within our daily lives occurs from local elections. And so be part of the political process, make your voice be heard. I know there's a lot going on with the coronavirus pandemic and a lot of people are occupied with other things, but this is part of our constitutional right. We have every obligation, a responsibility, like Brother Hisham mentioned, to make sure that we exercise this responsibility and make our voices be heard. So thank you so much to all of you for tuning in, and Jazakumullah khair. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam.